Have you ever wondered what it would be like to quit your job and follow your dreams to make a living? That's exactly what today's guest, EJ Nieves, did. Tune in and let's find out how. What's going on, EJ?
Man, what's going on? What's going on?
Man, I've been excited to talk to you on the show, man.
No, me too. You know, it's I haven't been on a podcast in a little bit, and I got kind of nervous. You know, I don't know. I don't really get nervous per se,
nervous
but
about.
It's every podcast is different, and every host is different, and so I don't think it's
me.
I don't think it's nervousness. I just think it's excitement. It's the jitters.
Me too, man.
The jitters of excitement.
Nervous. Yeah. So how you been doing? What you been doing?
Man, I've been good, man. You know, working. I got 2 murals that I'm working on right now. One at a Mexican Peruvian fusion restaurant called Mi Tierra Latina, and then another mural at Miller and Sons Plumbing. They have a new. I don't know if it's a new location. The building looks new. It's a beautiful building that they have in Ocala. And so I'm painting a mural for Miller and Sons Plumbing. So shout out to Mi Tierra and Miller and Sons Plumbing.
That's really cool. Like, I remember when you started doing murals, and what was the first, like, was it the street mural that you did first, or was it a wall mural?
Man, it's interesting. I'm trying to think of the timeline. It kind of, it all kind of happened so fast because I've only been painting murals professionally probably for about 3 or 4 years. So I think the first one, if I'm not mistaken, was the one I did at Paddock Mall, the mall in Ocala.
That's the one.
The Paddock Mall with the geometric shapes. And so that, I believe, was my very first one. And after
that thing blew up.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in Ocala would stop, and people that weren't even from Ocala would stop and take pictures with it. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was that one was a super. I mean, they're all blessings. That one is very near and dear to my heart because actually, this is really great timing because we're rolling up on Easter. Easter weekend is always the anniversary of that mural. It's called Paddock's Valkyrie. And I did that because on one side there's like wings, geometric wings that you can stand in front of and take a picture of. So every year, I believe this is now 4 years. That mural is 4 years old. And so I've been doing murals professionally for 4 years. That one was the one that really helped jumpstart that side of the Nieves brand.
Totally, man. So how did that come about? Like, how did you get to paint at the mall?
So shout out Ashley Gerd. She was the GM there at the time, and a really cool friend of mine. She let me know there was an opportunity to paint a mural, and I remember we had started the conversation. And just with corporate type of situations, it takes time to get the ball rolling, to be able to really infuse, the idea, get the ball rolling, get everybody to agree on a design, and then, of course, finally get it on the wall. So it was cool. Paddock Mall, and they were just really open to having art. And I knew inside they had a wall dedicated. I remember when I first got to Ocala and when I went to the mall, I noticed that they had a wall inside, real close to the food court, dedicated to artwork that they would hang. And that was always intriguing to me because, I've been to several malls, and a lot of malls don't necessarily have that. And so I thought it was cool. And so
it's usually some artificial thing that they put up on the wall to sell stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that one was, I believe they had some local artists hanging, and it was real close to the food court and, visible for everybody to see right there in plain sight. So I thought that was beautiful. And so, a little bit after that, I had a conversation with Ashley, and they hooked up the opportunity.
That's really cool. So I can't even draw. Man, I don't know what it is. I don't have good motor skills when it comes to writing. I can't write good.
Hmm.
Never have been able to. So like I've always wanted to draw. So like I'm envious of people like you that can just like do stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's I've been drawing, so it's interesting. I've been drawing since like third grade. Uh, put
My son's
myself.
age.
Yeah, so I put myself
Yeah.
on the red carpet right now, or maybe the black carpet. I don't know. I'm 40 years old, so I'm 40. I'm going to be 41 here in a couple months, and so I've been, when it
And
all
we're going to hear about
started.
that all month long too.
Oh yeah, no. So May, I always make a big deal. It's funny. I'm one of those like celebrate all month long. That's how I roll. So no, I started drawing when I was in third grade, and here I am now 40. Drawing is still a part of me, but in the beginning when I drew, drawing was like how I expressed myself all the
Yeah.
way through and through. And then by the time I got to college, drawing started to morph into painting, and that's when I took a couple painting classes, and it really just opened up some doors for me to really appreciate that type of artwork. And that's really where it started for me. After I started painting, I would always draw. Drawing was the beginning step to a
Okay.
painting, as opposed to drawing being the beginning, middle, end. And every artist is different, and I appreciate all kinds of art. But for me, I look at a drawing more as a preparatory
Yeah.
um, type
It's like
of.
taking notes.
Yeah, it's like taking notes, because I'll sketch around. When I started, when I was a lot younger in grade school and things like that, I would sketch and then solidify the sketch, and then, go even deeper. I would, get the different types of pencils out, the 2Bs and the different, levels of shades, and I would shade and try my best to understand realism and things like that. And then slowly, once I got to high school, that's when, kind of coloring in, because it was all black and white drawings. Then by the time I got to high school, I was on the school newspaper, so I did a lot of editorial
Okay.
cartooning. So they,
Yeah.
they wanted the black. I mean, I think I did some black and white type stuff, but then I had opportunities to have full color, full color pages. So those would be the times that I would, kind of start getting into color and start busting out the markers, and kind of understanding color theory.
Yeah.
So it was a nice bridge. High school was a really nice bridge between the pencil drawing that I was doing in the early grade school level.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then finally, by the time I got to college, is when I busted out the paints, and it was all about color and understanding
That's
color
cool.
theory. So and
Yeah.
now the painting is definitely still there, because I do a lot of painting on canvas. But now I enjoy working as big as I can with the murals.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, my kids both are pretty artistic, and so is their mom. My daughter, she's like really good at the drawings.
hmm
Like I can tell she's gonna be good at it if she really wants to try. My
yeah.
son, he's a little bit more crude, but like, have you seen those Dogman books?
I've
Maybe.
seen the illustration type. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. So like he draws like that,
I love
and he
it.
makes these comic
I
books.
love it. I love
It's
it.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
no.
was
I wanted to encourage you, as a parent of an artist or artist, because you have two of them, to always encourage them. I'm sure you do already, but since we're on a podcast and you have an audience, I wanted to be very intentional. If you guys have out there, the audience listening, if you have kids that are artists, or attempting to draw, or attempting to kind of understand art, or you start noticing that it's a little bit more than a hobby, because you have the hobbies, but then you have almost a level of obsession. And I think that when children start displaying that, I think that's when it's time to kind of lean in and say, okay, hey, like, what is it about art that you like? What is it that you enjoy? Is it because you're expressing yourself? Is it because you just, again, I'm probably going to start nerding out here, but I think these are really
no.
important
Go
questions
ahead.
to ask children,
Yeah.
because you just never know why a child is expressing themselves in an artistic way. I think so many times parents and adults at some point, and I go into this whole thing. I'll touch upon it a little bit because it's a whole book in my mind. But there comes a point in time where adults, parents, teachers, and it's metaphorical for life, but it's almost like, okay, make sure to stay inside of the lines. If you color, make sure to color inside of the lines. Keep everything tight, keep everything right. And it's almost as if to say, I'm going to start putting boundaries on your creativity. And my encouragement to any parent, any guardian, you have a child, you have children that are interested in art, allow them to express themselves, of course, not on your walls. And, I'm not talking about letting your kids run wild and paint all over the furniture and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, allow them to go wild on canvas, allow them to go, whatever is suitable, within means and within your budget. If it's paper, cool. If you have it, in the family budget to buy some canvas, cool. If you have it in the family budget to buy some wooden planks, cool. Whatever it is, to allow them to express themselves in pencils, pens, watercolor, acrylics, safely spray paint, you get a mask and all that stuff, do it all safely. But I think really diving deep and allowing your children to explore art is a very beautiful thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to share that because
no, that's great.
I just have a passion. I was an art teacher for a while. I was a middle school art teacher, and it was just really cool to be able to see kids express themselves without boundaries. Because, of course, I put particular boundaries as in like a topic. Like, hey, I want you to draw this or that or the third. But in regards to like how they would create it or, how they express themselves within that creation, I try to limit the boundaries as much as possible because I just find that it's important to allow kids to express themselves artistically without a lot of restriction.
Oh, yeah. Dude, my daughter, she you started talking about painting on furniture. She saves like trash and stuff.
Okay.
She's like, we can recycle this. And then she'll make an art project out of it.
Oh, I love that. I don't know.
Cereal boxes or whatever, like stuff that you would throw away. Like you bought a computer monitor and there's pieces in there that she wants to do something with. She tries to keep it. We have to sneak stuff away to throw it away.
No, I love that. Man, it was going on like 2 years now. I don't know if you remember the paintings I was doing on soda boxes. Like
those were cool, man.
The Coca-Cola,
like the Mountain Dews and stuff.
Yeah, like I was doing
Ninja Turtles.
I was doing I remember I did like a Raphael on a Pizza Hut box, and I did a Michelangelo, I think, on a Little Caesars. So, I
do remember that.
I was doing all kind of stuff with trash. I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what would you even did like the Louis Vuitton bag or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Just the store bag?
Yeah, I did a tiger and on the Louis Vuitton and then
Tiger King.
Yeah, inside of some of the letters ended up kind of nicely fitting the eyes of the tiger. It was really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a good time
did you
with
know
that.
Joe Exotic is on X?
Really?
Speaking of Tiger King, yeah, dude. He's like, I don't know how he can use it, but because he's behind bars and stuff.
Yeah.
But the poor guy, he everybody wants to get him pardoned or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he will interact with you on X, and
Wow.
it's just interesting that you did that tiger thing around that time, and then it brought that back to my memory. But yeah, he's out there.
That's cool.
Joe, if you happen to see this, I hope you get out, bud.
Shout out Tiger King.
For sure. Yeah, man. So when you were a kid and stuff, were you more into drawing than video games or whatever?
Yeah, I actually, there's times where I think about this because I wish that I was into video games way, way more than I am. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of time, between, just everything that I do in my life. I don't have a lot of downtime, which I think is good. But there was a time where particular video games would come out and I'd be like, man, I'm really interested in getting into that, and I just wouldn't have time. So, but growing up, I remember I enjoyed art more than
Okay.
video games. I had like an N64, and it would be interesting because I would rather keep up with the drawing and things like that as opposed to knowing what new game was. Like, for example, like I think just out of the kindness of my parents' heart, they because I don't remember asking to have a subscription to Nintendo Power. Like, remember the
Oh
magazine?
yeah, I have one of those too.
The
Yeah.
Nintendo Power magazines. What
Yeah,
was
man.
interesting is I actually like the Wizard comic book magazines way
I
more than the
remember
Nintendo
that.
Powers.
Yeah.
And Wizards, man, I remember Wizards that were so dope, and it's because of the art, you know.
I used to get the Toy Fair magazine until like my mom got a hold of it and she saw how dirty it was, and she was like, "You can't have this."
Yeah, and Wizard, of course, you know, depending on, you know, what comic books they were representing inside, you know, some comic books, it wasn't like an adult. Wizard was not an adult magazine, but you know, some
Right.
comic books kind of err on the side of more of an adult
A little
crowd, a
risque.
little more
Yeah.
risque. And so I remember sometimes being like, I don't know if I'm allowed to like have this. I mean, I went to the comic book store and they let me buy
Yeah.
it. They let me buy it, but like I feel kind of bad because some of the comics that are being represented in here are kind of risque.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, like I grew up with Image comics. I love Image. I know a lot of people, they love Marvel and they love DC, and I love them too. But man, when
What
I
are
tell
some of
you,
their characters, guys? I think I remember the hearing about that or reading it
with
somewhere, but
Image,
I never
so
paid attention to where they came from. I just like would go to the grocery store when my parents were shopping,
yeah,
and I would go to the magazine. I'll read all the comics.
so you know, Image, Wildcats,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Spawn. Um,
Oh yeah, okay. I remember Spawn. I
so
was a
you
little
know,
bit scared to read that one because, like, if my mom walked by the aisle, I was holding that. I thought I was going to get in trouble because
oh
he
yeah,
looked so dark or
yeah, no,
whatever.
it was definitely dark, and you know that we're talking about this, it was dark. I mean, the main character, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he died and went to hell and came back. And
Yeah, yeah.
Spawn was definitely dark, and even right now as we're talking, I'm like, man, like one of my favorite comic books of all time was Spawn. It was a Spawn and Batman collab comic book, and that book was actually the book in fourth grade that really took me to this place where I wanted to be an artist. I had a
Okay.
friend, and you know, speaking of, you know, video games, the sleepovers, when I would, you know, sleep over my bros' houses, you know, that's what we would do. We would draw, and we would draw from comic books, and we would play video games, and you know, drink Mountain
Drink some
Dew,
Mountain
and
Dew.
you know, drink Mountain
Yeah,
Dew,
bro.
and eat Cheetos all night. And
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting talking about comics because comic books really, it was the thing that took me to this place where I was like, man, for a time, I thought I wanted to be a comic book artist, but what's interesting is as I continued to draw, I was not really concerned about anatomy. So, of
Okay.
course, as a comic book artist, the greatest comic book artists, and you know, the ones in regards to like, you know, superheroes, you had to understand anatomy. You know, you had to
Right.
understand how the body moved and how to draw, you know, muscles and you know, things like that. And I was just never really interested in that. I was always it's really cool that we're even having this conversation. I don't think I've ever delved into this topic specifically.
If I
And
cut you off right here, you're going to lose track because I have one little thing to tell you
yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
What's up?
All right. It's like, it's on topic, but not. So I was in college. This is when I stopped drawing.
Yeah.
I wanted to draw all the way up until college. When I was in college, my freshman year, maybe my sophomore year, I was in Cleveland, Tennessee that year. This chick, she was in the dorms with us. She drew a hand that looked like that for real.
Yeah.
And I threw down my drawing pad and never picked it up again. You were talking about anatomy, so sorry.
No, and just I mean, what's interesting, right? When I was in college, our drawing classes were actually nude figure drawing classes, and I remember,
Oh wow,
I
that would have
remember
been uncomfortable.
it was uncomfortable. You know, not to get too weird or deep into this topic, but like it was just weird, you know, just
Yeah,
seeing nude people that I didn't know, like in front of me, just standing there, and we're supposed to draw them, and
right.
you know, it was just commonplace, and that was I took two or three drawing classes at UCF. And I
Okay.
remember, male and female anatomy. And it's interesting, like I did my best to draw and understand the anatomy, but like I was just never, this is an interesting topic
Was
because
it in a cold room or a warm room?
cold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Poor guy.
So, it was just one of those things where like I was never really intrigued in anatomy. I was always intrigued in composition and space.
Yeah.
And so what I
Okay.
mean by that is even when I did draw, when I started getting a little bit more serious with my drawings and then definitely in my paintings, it was always about like the close up of something, like the close up of an eye or the close up of like a face
Yeah.
or a
Okay.
close up of a hand, right? Like I did, it's interesting you bring up hands. For a season, I was doing a lot of hands that were like reaching to the sky. And it
Okay.
was just a hand, but I would draw it in my style. It wasn't, definitely wasn't photorealistic, but it was painted. You knew it was a hand, but I was just so obsessed with the concept of like reaching up to God. And
Yeah.
it was this whole thing about drawing hands praising or like reaching to the sky. And so I did that for a couple of years. So it's interesting how some of what you're bringing up is just, it's all connecting,
Were you a part of the mission?
What's up?
Were you a part of the mission in Florida?
No, called The Mission?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, you're just part of Tony T's church.
What's up? Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I met.
Okay.
Through Florida camps and all that.
Yeah, so like I used to go to oh my gosh, the Sanctuary. So I used to go to Sanctuary Church.
Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I thought because you went there that you were part of that group, the mission.
No,
That's
I've been
actually
on mission
what I was.
trips. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually what I was a part of when I said when I was in college.
Oh,
I was in
okay.
a program called the Mission.
That's cool.
And it was like a ministry training program.
That's
stuff
awesome.
like that. So, yeah. Probably the most artistic thing that I've ever done. I used to be a kids pastor.
Okay.
And we did this curriculum called Post-it Notes from God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into the kids' room and put on the wall Post-it notes in the colors that said Post-it Notes from God on the wall, all the way across the wall.
Yeah.
That was like really difficult, but it was fun. I was proud of
awesome.
it. So yeah, you do have a really unique style. Like it's even your comic like paintings that I've seen you do, and we have a couple of them for the kids actually, Spider-Man and Spider-Girl.
Yeah.
And or actually Spider-Gwen. I'm not sure
Gwen.
what you're supposed to call her. Yeah.
Gwen,
Okay.
Spider-Gwen.
My kids correct me every time, but I was always a Spider-Man guy, but Spider-Gwen's kind of newer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, anyways, that style, like even those, they don't look like what you see from Marvel.
Yeah.
They're like totally that you can look at one of those paintings and be like, oh yeah, EJ made that.
No, I appreciate that. And that actually, I'll be honest, that makes me feel very good, because for a long while, I did the comic book convention scene. And I really did try my best to set myself apart. And I think that, my style had a lot to do with, again, composition, close-ups. I would do just Wolverine's fist with the claws coming out. And
I remember
that would be
those
the
were
painting.
so cool.
Thank you. Like that would be the whole painting, or it would just be like the Joker's smile. Like that's it. It wouldn't be anything else. It would just be this huge painting of just a Joker smile. And, I really did try to push the limits on composition. And I'm flattered that a lot of people ended up copying me. And at the time, I don't think I was mature enough to understand that hey, if people
it's a compliment.
Yeah, if people are copying you, it's a compliment. I'll never forget. I went to a show. This is the first time that I had witnessed this for myself, because a lot of people. So I started doing the Comic-Cons. Man, I mean, I kind of retired from them because a lot of the Comic-Cons now are anime conventions, and they
basically
anime really took over, and rightfully so, because My
I don't know. I don't
goodness,
like it.
and I say rightfully so because, man,
You
Marvel
may
and
like it, and
DC,
that's okay.
yeah,
I just can't. I can't get into it.
yeah, but
It's just
Marvel and DC really dropped the
yeah.
ball. They really dropped the ball. Now, DC, in my opinion, they have amazing storytelling in comic books, but man, they just never
I think
got
they
it
might
together.
come back now, though, that they've got what's his? Is Tommy Gunn? Is that his name? That's
Oh,
directing all
James
this stuff.
Gunn. I
James Gunn.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I personally, I'm
Oh
not.
yeah, Tommy Gunn's the fashion guy. Sorry, wrong one.
I'm not excited for it. I'll
No.
probably get, people will probably hate on me for that, but I know there's a lot of people that are really, really ready and amped for the new DC
I,
universe to
I
open
hope
up,
that
but
they
I'm
would
not.
keep the new Batman, like the Batman.
Yeah.
I really did love that version of Batman.
Oh, absolutely.
And if that could be the tone of the entire universe, it would be successful.
Yeah, it would. And unfortunately, I
It's
don't
going to be
think
that
that
goofy
is.
crap that they did with
Yeah,
the Suicide Squad,
yeah, it's gonna be that bubblegum, kind of
trying
funny.
to what
I
Guardians
don't.
of the
Yeah,
Galaxy
I
remake.
was like Like I just feel like when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and I love Guardians, and I feel like Guardians. It's weird. Guardians came out, and I think it was so beloved and so different for a superhero type of movie and storytelling that other people were like, you know what, we want to do a lot more of this, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I would have absolutely loved for there to be more movies like Winter Soldier. But
yeah,
Winter Soldier
for
was a
sure.
little darker. It was a little bit more serious, a darker tone. And I know that we had some of that, with the End Game. Some of the Avengers movies, definitely had a
I feel
darker tone.
all the way up to Endgame was perfection.
Oh yeah,
After Endgame, it started to fall apart.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And this is a topic that so many people, they have a lot of opinions and thoughts and stuff. But man, like I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for Doomsday. I know a lot of people are excited to see Doctor Doom,
yeah.
and I know a lot of people that are not. So it's. I think it's kind of split down the middle. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm excited to see what they do. I mean, I haven't even finished watching Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine yet,
Oh, okay. I watched
and
that. I watched it like 4 times.
I want to finish watching it, but I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I don't care that much about watching Deadpool, then why do I even care about Marvel anymore?
And honestly, brother, I haven't been excited for a TV show until Daredevil. So I've been keeping up
Yeah,
with Daredevil, Born Again, and that's really the only Marvel situation I've been amped for. I'm really not excited for Fantastic Four. We'll see what
yeah.
happens with
I was
that,
about to ask
and
you what you thought about that. The art style looks interesting.
it looks interesting.
Is it in the past or is it a different universe? Or you know anything?
I think it's in the past, but I don't know too much more than that. So
I
we'll
try
we'll
not to
see.
look myself. I try to be surprised if I watch it. So
That's another thing I have a grab about. We live in a day and age now where all these bloggers and influencers and social media sites, they want to, any little thing that comes out before a movie, they want to put it out there. And it's like,
yeah,
dude,
like it's new content.
it's like, man, we are living in an age now where like nothing, no, you cannot be unless you're not on social media at all.
Yeah,
You're
nothing sacred.
nothing sacred, man. Like they're already ruining Daredevil season 2. I'm like, I don't want to hear anything about the next season. I'm still invested in this season. And you
Right.
guys are already leaking photographs of what's going to happen and how people look like in season 2. And I'm like, bro, like, come on. Nothing's
Hmm.
sacred. It's crazy.
That's called grifters, man. People that just
Yeah.
use every little soundbite so they can make some extra money.
Yep.
That's it.
And that's
It's
what it
whatever,
is.
dude. So, you did a lot of stuff in your community. Like, I've seen you like really bring new life in the art scene. You did a lot for kids.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit about some of that so that people listening can learn more about you.
Yeah, no, definitely something that I'm excited to bring back when the time is right is what I like to call a yak. And
Oh
Yak,
yeah, I remember that. That was really awesome.
thank you. Yak is a youth arts and crafts fair. And, one of it goes back to what I shared with you in the beginning of the pod, where I was sharing with your audience that, man, this is so important, man. When a child expresses interest in art, lean into it. And so Yak, I've done it once. It was a big success. We did it in downtown Ocala. And, it was a real, minimal fee for the family to pay for a table space, to kind of build out a little booth area to either showcase your art, or if you want to sell it, or if you wanted to live paint, whatever you wanted to do. And it was just really cool. I think we had about 15 artists, and the youngest was like, my goodness, I think the youngest artist there was a second grader,
That's awesome.
all the way to a sophomore in high school. I think we had a senior in high school as well. And it was such a beautiful thing to see. And walking around, seeing all the kids with their parents, because of course their parents have to be there with them behind the booth. And many of them were selling their artwork. Some of them were just there to showcase, which is completely okay. And but no, it was just a really good time. I think it's very important for, again, children who express interest in art to lean in on it. And if they are in a position where they are painting enough, or they feel confident enough to paint something and put it on a table or hang it in a booth and try to sell it. I had a couple kids there. They made a few $100, and I'm like, man, when I was in fifth grade, I didn't make any money off of my art. So
Dude, yeah.
they were already, light years ahead of myself.
When I was in
and
fifth
other
grade,
artists.
I would cut my dad's grass for him, and he'd give me enough money to go to the movie gallery and buy a used movie.
That's awesome.
No, that's about what I got,
the only money that, the money that I would get would be from like grades. For a while I was on that, good grades, equal money thing for a little bit with my family. Right. So I tried my best to get the best grades that I could to be able to, afford the art supplies or the video games, that I wanted at the time. And
it's so funny how society focuses so hard on that. Like, oh, you got to get the grades, and you got to go get that job, and you got to be able to go to college. But whenever you can create your own money, literally, you can just do whatever's passionate inside of you. And like, that's how you create money. Yeah. That's how rich people do things.
Oh yeah. No, I remember, man, I'll never forget. I was a teacher, and I remember it was the summer. So, many times, depending on what kind of teacher you are, I know different schools do different things. So I was a teacher in Orlando years and years ago, before I had quit. I remember I was like, okay, I was thinking about quitting teaching and doing art full time, and just kind of like jumping off the cliff and trying it out. And I was like, well, before I quit, I'm going to attempt to survive. I'm not going to get a part-time job. I'm going to try to survive all summer long on just my art. And, the summer was probably about, 2 months. And so I was like, well, worst case scenario, I'll burn through my savings, I'll eat ramen. And by, the first week, I think it ended up coming to like the last week of August or something is when my first official teacher paycheck would hit after I started school, like the first or second week of whatever August. So I was like, okay, I have about 2 solid months to survive and to see what I can do. And brother, the money I made that summer off of art, hustling and really, trying hard. And I think in the midst of that, I did one or two shows, comic book conventions. And it's not that I was flooded with cash or anything, but I was like, you know what? I'm paying my bills,
right. And nobody knows you yet.
And nobody knows me. I'm just out here painting away and painting these pieces in my backyard and putting it on my Instagram, and, all right, cool. And so we were off to the races. So by the time I got back to school, I told myself, man, I did it. I survived for 2 months. And the thing was, when I started teaching again, the overflow from like the commissions and the things that I received, a couple weeks before school started, of course, I needed that to do those, to paint those, and to take care of that. And so that's when it began. Like okay, I'm working all day. And so I get off, middle school, I would get off around 3, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would take a little, lunch break, super early dinner break. And then around 5 o'clock, I would start painting, and I would paint until like 10 o'clock at night, go to sleep, wake up at like 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning and do it again. And I did that. I did that for that. Yeah. So that same year. So I did that until the Christmas break of that year. I was like, this is exhausting. Like, this is really exhausting. And I think that if I just believe in myself and do it, I can survive. And so I did. Christmas break, I prayed about it. I was like, I talked to my mom about it. I would have a lot of like times where I was just looking at myself in the mirror and go, your art's doing some stuff, excuse me. You really gotta, it's either you're just going to crash and burn because you're working so much. I mean, cool. Like, the money, not that it's about money, but like, okay, cool. You have your teacher salary, and then you also have your art coming in. So like, man, you are good to go. But like, I had no time for nothing. And with the art, you can't
keep burning the candle at both ends.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was doing. So I was burning the candle at both ends. And Christmas break, I had a convo with my mom, and I'm a mama's boy, so like I definitely want to, I want to impress her, and I want her to always be like, hey, you're in good standing, and it means a lot to me to hear my mom, just be proud or whatever.
The coquitos.
What's up?
And she makes you the coquitos.
Yeah.
Real quickly, shout out to Hada out there on X, because this is the guy. This is the reason why I know what coquitos are. That's an inside joke, but thanks.
That's what's up. Yeah. And for those of you that know Andy Mineo music, definitely check out Coquito by Andy Mineo. I love that song. Every time I drink Coquito, I have to listen to that song while awesome. I'm drinking it. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. It sets the vibe. But yeah, no, by the time I got back after Christmas break, so February 1st, like 10 years ago, I think at this point it's like 12 years ago now, I lost track. I quit, I quit. I wrote my assistant principal, nice letter.
Was it frightening?
Oh, it was frightening. It definitely was. I remember, I think I might have had a paycheck or two. Like, I think I might have had maybe a couple $1,000 saved, and I had like another paycheck, like I quit, but I had my last paycheck that I would have had to, I think I had to pick it up because the direct deposit stopped or whatever. Anyway, but
for sure.
I remember I quit, and I didn't even wait till the end of the year. I was like, it's time. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. And I was scared because I was like, man, this at that time, being a teacher was the best job that I had ever gotten. It was the most salary in a job that I've ever gotten. And I was like, I had I had benefits, I had health, dental, everything. I had it all. And I learned later after I quit how expensive Cobra was, because I had Cobra, and like Cobra is like skyrocket. Crazy. I'll never forget. They were like, well, if you want to continue, I got this letter. I think maybe 2 weeks after I quit, when they gave you like a little grace period, like, okay, well, you quit, but you have Cobra until whatever, a month later. And they were like, yeah, it'll be something stupid. It was like $600 a month or something crazy, $600 or $700. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to have them anymore. But I quit, and it was scary. It was scary. But when I tell you, God kept me, and it was a very, I just saw God do extraordinary things during that season in my life.
Yeah.
through
Well, I
the.
mean, we all watched you. Those of us who knew you,
Yeah.
and dude, like, I want to say, like, some people would use the word jealous. That's not the right word. Not for me.
Yeah.
But I not even envy or anything. But like, I've always wanted to have that.
Yeah.
But you inspired by watching you do that. I want to say, like, I'm not proud of you, but I'm proud for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't be proud of somebody else taking their thing away when you do that. But if you're proud for somebody, I don't know how to say it the right way, but like the good feelings that you get when you see like your kid do something awesome. Like I felt that for you, man. Like I was just like, dude, he's doing it. I'm so happy for him.
No, I appreciate that,
And
man.
like, like watching you go through all of that and walk through that, like inspired me. Like, you know what? I don't want to work every day until I die.
Yeah.
Like I want my work to be meaningful and feel like I'm doing something to impact the world.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know what that was for a long time. I tried making TikTok videos and like, maybe that's what it is. And that was fun, but like, I never got the groove. And then like, this past year around, November, I started making some funny like newsreels.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I kind of want to do something like that.
Yeah.
And like, I've always like listened to people do podcasts, I love Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and different ones. And like, I was like, I want to be like a news person maybe, which I'm not. I don't know if I'm doing really news, but then I started thinking about like, I know all these really cool people, like like I knew you, and like you're a freaking rock star in art world, man.
No, thank you.
And like I've got other musician friends that their episodes haven't aired yet. One guy that's a photographer, he'll be on here.
That's
maybe cool. Two more episodes before he's on, but he like did 2 Chainz and Lil Jon and like all these. He did 6 Bruce Willis movies.
Wow. Like what do you mean? Like he has music in those movies?
No, he's a photographer.
Oh, a photographer. My bad.
So he took pictures of the movie set, like so that they could have pictures for their posters.
Really?
And then so like he did a photo shoot for 2 Chainz. He did a photo shoot for Lil Jon with Wayfair for some ads that they did. Like he's like a big time artist, and like he's so humble about it. He acts like it's not that big a deal, but dude, it's a freaking big deal.
It is.
And like these people are my friends, and I'm just like, I've got enough interesting friends that I can get a start going. And then by the time that, these people come out and their episodes come out and people start to see them, I'll be able to get other people who are just as interesting to come on that I don't know yet and get to know them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, thanks for that, for being that, like that warrior that just like totally was like, you know what, screw this system. And I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah, no, man, I wanted to encourage you, one of the biggest things that I learned, in that journey, is it's like you're going to run into pitfalls, man. You're going to run into pitfalls. We're human. When we first start anything, it's really just us. And, I think because even now in this season of my life, I've taken a couple steps back. I'm still doing the paintings. I'm still doing the murals and all this kind of stuff. But, just kind of taking a step back and realizing, in the future, what it's going to take to make it grow to the next level. You need a team around you, and as you grow, I want to encourage you as you grow and get more guests. And, I'm just going to start speaking it into existence for you. When you start monetizing and the money starts coming in, always invest in your business, always invest in newer equipment and better equipment. When you get better equipment, invest in even better equipment. Your set looks amazing. I love the lighting. Thank you. Continue investing in that.
Remember, I want you to continue, but remind me to talk about this afterwards.
No, for sure. I just want to encourage you. And then when that time comes, if you're able to build a team, even if it's just someone that you can hire part-time to help you with logistics, keeping a calendar for you and, making sure all of your guests know where they need to be, when they need to be, etc. That's the biggest thing that I know when I come back full force. Again, just had to take a couple steps back, but when I come back out full force, you need a team around you, and even if it's just one person, you definitely need someone that is paid. I mean, unless, you have a family member or somebody that's ride or die and they have the time to help you. But ultimately, you need staff. And so that's my encouragement, man. I just want to speak that into existence for you, because with the podcast, you already know, man, it's a production. And
absolutely, it takes lots of work.
It takes lots of work. And I mean, of course, in the beginning, it's for many, it's a solo deal unless you have a co-host, or, I know some podcasts have like 2 or 3 people on it. So yeah, you could divvy up the responsibilities and divvy up some of the stuff within multiple people in the podcast, as there are separate permanent hosts on there. But the biggest thing, man, is dividing and conquering. And so that's my encouragement for you and anybody else out there trying to start whatever you're going to start. When you start to cash flow, I think that's one of my biggest, if you were to ask me, what's one thing you would tell people? Everybody can say, don't give up and try your hardest. And, yes, that's all well and good. That, to me, that's low hanging fruit. Of course.
You could try hard all day, but if you don't do the right things, you're going to fail.
Yeah, like you could try hard all day. You could be fearless. You can post every single day. You can do all that. That, to me, at this point, there's so many podcasters, social media influencers, whatever you want to call it, that are all saying the same thing over and over and over again. What a lot of people don't talk about is that there comes a point in time that when the money starts coming in, you have to be a good steward of that. And in order to grow a production, you have to hire staff, even if it's literally hiring one person for one day, for a couple hours, and you're able to pay them the best that you can for one day, for a couple hours. And maybe that day is when they edit for you, or maybe that day is, when they're the ones that are checking your DMs, and they're the ones that are, writing people back on your email, whatever. That's my biggest piece of advice for entrepreneurs is the moment that you're able to. I have a friend, he calls it red work. So all of those little itty bitty things that are just like, man, I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish I didn't have to email a reminder. I wish, let's be honest, everybody has those little things. So you make a list of all those little things that you don't like to do. We call it red work. Hire somebody when the time is right to do the red work. Even if it's, like I said, a couple hours a week for one day, and start there. Next thing you know, you have enough money to have 2 days, and then 3 days. And then next thing you know, you have a full blown, executive assistant that's on there full time because you're continuing to work hard. They're helping you with the red work. You're able to do more of what you love to do, the green side, not the red side. And then, then it just starts rocking and rolling. But I really felt led to share that because I think a lot of times, like I see it all the time, man. It's just so many influencers are just like, do it, but it's like, man, dude,
that's like their sales model. They don't want to tell you everything because then you'll quit watching their videos and giving them money.
Exactly. And then if they do give you the sauce, they want you to buy a program. I get it, man. That's how 80% of these guys are making money. Even some of my favorite podcasters, I'm not going to blow them up because, again, it's like I'm not here to judge. Like, it's not about judging anybody. I'm not going to put anybody on Front Street.
I have my own feelings about it. I won't talk about it if you don't want to, but
I'm not going to say specific names, but even some of my favorite business, entrepreneurial podcasts, social media influencers, that's one huge word or title.
Yeah.
Everything always ends with a product. And I get it. That's how they're making money. But man, there's so many people that cannot afford to buy your $299 program, your $1,000 program, your $5,000 program. People just,
Right. Whenever what they really need to be spending $200 on is vidIQ for a year.
yeah, like, and so it just gets, and again, that's just one nugget out of many, but that's a
Yeah.
nugget that many people will not tell you unless you buy their program. It's like, hey, in the free stuff that I give you on Facebook or Instagram, like a little 1 minute reel or, a little 1.5 minute Facebook story or whatever,
They sell you a hook.
I'm going to give you a hook. I'm going to hype you up. But like the
Yeah.
reality is all that hype is well and good, but when the money starts coming in, you have to be a good steward of it. And I'll be the
Yeah.
first one to tell you, I was not, like I made a lot of mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I made a lot of mistakes because I did not know what I was doing. I was a one-man band. And that's
Right.
why I tell everybody now, like, guys.
And you get comfortable wanting to do everything your own way.
Exactly.
You have to be careful and allow yourself to delegate things.
Exactly. And again, when the time is right, hiring people that are smarter than you, hiring people that are better at particular things than you. And I try to talk to people about this a lot, and they just
everything
don't
you're
get it.
talking about, though, is I'm glad you said it, because like this is my goal.
Yeah.
My goal is to get to the point. I've got a really big production. I'll tell you about off air. I don't want to tell anybody, give them an idea, because it's something I've never seen done before. But I'm going to have a staff. I'm going to have to be able to rent some kind of studio space. It's going to have to be a big deal. Maybe a small warehouse or something to do what I'm thinking. But and it's probably going to take 3 or 4 years before it comes to fruition. But yes, I want to get to that point where I can hire somebody to edit this and then hire somebody to do that. But do you remember how we talked about AI before? And I said I just hated it and like it was evil, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've changed my mind.
Which
because
I will say a lot of people do, but sorry, I digress.
No, man. AI, I've got about 10 different AI things that I'm using right now, and it all works together to help me to do so much stuff that I couldn't do
I love it.
by myself.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my little clips that I put on the reels, like that's made with AI. It's easy to do. I go in and tweak it a little bit, make sure it looks good, make sure that the words are right or something, like that kind of stuff. I use ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, I got this idea, but I don't know what I think about it. Give me some ideas to go with it so I can think through it. And like, like a lot of that stuff, man, like I'll use Grok. I'll, I use AI to like read these videos so they can write out the script for me so that I can use that to help make up my keywords and all my things for SEO optimization. And like, I've had to learn how to do all that myself because I was not paying for somebody to teach me something that I couldn't learn for myself. And I would watch like hours and hours, now hundreds or thousands of hours of YouTube and learn everything I could from somebody, because everybody will sneak in something every once in a while. You can piece it all together if you try really hard. So that's how I did it, because I'm going to spend money on the resources I need, like vidIQ, which will help me to optimize on YouTube. So that, that $200, instead of spending on somebody's program, I spend it on something useful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And see you.
Yeah. So like I'm tracking with you. You
got it, because again, if I'm going to say this again, it's nothing, because I'm not trying to take, money. I'm not trying to take food out of anybody's kid's mouth.
I just feel like you should be creative and create something that's fresh for people to enjoy, rather than just tell them how you can promise to make them rich.
Yes. And, we're definitely, man. Yeah, this is, and again, I don't want to dive too deep into it, but, we might have to do like a part 2, and continue. But I will say this, we definitely live in a day and age where everybody's like, man, you need to be rich. This is how I'm going to make you rich. And it's like, I understand that money makes the world go round. That's why I appreciate Gary Vaynerchuk so much, because even today, and it's cool, I got a chance to meet him in person at Fanatics Fest last year in New York. He's a great guy. And the one thing that I appreciate about Gary V is, yes, is he uber successful? Yes, he is. Is he, do people pay big money to have him speak at conferences and stuff like that? Yes, all of that. But when he's on his social media and when he's talking to his audience of millions and millions, he will tell you things like, you know what? Still live with your parents. Why not? You know, forget the status quo. If living with your parents at 28 or 32 and saving your money is going to help you, keep doing that. You know, if ultimately you having 2 or 3 roommates is going to help you, you know, be able to start your podcast or start your art career, and in the very beginning you're only making $30,000 a year, or you're making $37,000 a year, or whatever, off of what you love doing, he's the biggest proponent, in my opinion. He's one of the biggest ones still to this day that will say, go for your dream, live sensibly so that you can live your dream. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's tons of podcasts that are successful, because if you keep going, the thing is, it's only a matter of time. That's why I tell people, don't quit, keep going. You know, like, even if you have to take a couple steps back or get a part-time job or get a full-time job or whatever, and keep living your dream, because you're still living your dream. You're just having to make certain adjustments, you know, like, but people will tell you, oh, well, if you get a salary job, you know, you're done, or what. If you're still doing things part-time, if you're still, you know, after you clock out of work, you're clocking into your dream, you're still living your dream, because you're still working towards it. But man, there's so many people out there that, like you said, they're not saying that. They're like, you know what? You're struggling financially. You're struggling and you don't know how you're going to make money. Guess what? For only $1,000, I'm going to teach you how to make money, even though you don't have money. And it's like,
and is what they're selling actually going to help you?
Yeah.
That's the thing, you know? You don't know.
You don't know. And that's why I appreciated what you just shared, that like you took the time to study as many people as possible. And it sounds
I'm still
funny.
Doing that. Yeah.
It sounds funny to say this, but sometimes they do slip, and sometimes they do say things that their paid programs are telling you. But for whatever reason, if you've listened, like one of the, again,
you learn a pattern in their speech. You learn that pattern. You learn catch the differences.
Yep. And again, out of respect for this particular guru, a lot of people know who this person is. He has, my gosh, at this point, like he has more than 500 podcasts, bro. He has more than 700 podcasts. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm going to listen to or watch every one, but lately I have been pretty consistent in listening to one a day, sometimes 2 a day, because just to encourage you too, you know, I don't know exactly how your system's set up, but you know, sometimes you don't need a guest. Sometimes your podcast can be 12 minutes long. Like the one that I'm talking about, he'll drop, he'll drop a podcast that's just him speaking, and it'll be 12 minutes. He'll drop another one that's 30 minutes. So
every other week I do something like that.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be regimented to an hour.
Sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's going to be serious. Like this next one I'm going to do next week is going to be serious, but the one before that was stupid. It was about corn dogs.
I love it. And so, my encouragement to you, and you're already doing it, man, but my encouragement to you is don't stop, don't quit. You know, this is what I like to tell podcasters, and it breaks my heart when podcasters will hit a stride. They'll hit a stride, as in, you know, they're getting all the guests that they want. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, it's happening weekly. It's happening bi-weekly. It's happening the way that you want it. Right. And then something happens. I'm not saying you or whatever. I'm just saying in general, many of the podcasters that I know personally, they'll get 10 podcasts in, they'll get 25 podcasts in, they'll get 30 in, and the numbers are not hitting like they want them to. Man, I only got 100 views on this. I only got 500 views on that. I only got 1,000 on this one. Man, I got one that got 15,000 views, but then the next 5 only got like 600 views. I'm like, bro, sis, keep going, because here's the thing: as you continue, like what podcasters have that many people don't have is the ability to build a humongous network. Like, if you're very intentional about this,
Right.
And I'm talking you, anybody, any
Anyone.
podcaster,
Yeah.
anyone. This is kind of like a little business 101, right? With like business development. But I'm going to dive into this because this is how you can business develop within podcasting. For every one guest you have, you could easily, if at the very least, generate one more. You can ask me,
Sure. Yeah.
you can ask
Do you
me
have
after,
somebody else that would like to come
exactly.
on? Yeah.
Do you have somebody else? Or can you help me shake a hand, virtually? Because sometimes they don't even live in the same city or whatever, just like us. Can you help virtually, introduce me and help me shake a hand of at least one other person? Sometimes some people can give you a whole Rolodex. Man, I have a whole gang of people that are in my mastermind that would absolutely love to be on your podcast, And so I feel like, again, it's not about, I don't want to say it this way because it's going to kind of come out kind of weird, but
no, say whatever. It's fine.
it's like, I'm not saying that I'm a stepping stone. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that people are bridges. People are bridges to other people. And it's not that you're using people. It's not that you're utilizing people. To me,
that was your motto back in the day, dude.
Exactly.
Build bridges.
Build bridges, not kingdoms.
Not
and
kingdoms.
It's like, to me, the byproduct of a successful podcast is successful networking. Because if right now this podcast is beneficial for the both of us, it's beneficial for you because you're getting content. It's beneficial for me because I now have a piece of content that, for the most part, I mean, really, any podcast that I've ever been on, I was not asked to edit it. All I had to do was make time, jump on it, have a great time with the host. I'm having a great time with you. And after it's done, in a couple weeks, maybe a month, ta-da, a piece of content, a beautiful piece of content has now come out that I can utilize for my platform, just like you can utilize for your platform. And I feel like the most successful podcasters and the most successful podcasts, they understand the power of collaboration. They understand the power of what happens when 2 people, 3 people, however many people you have on a show at one time. That moment is very powerful, especially when you say, hey, we're going to post this at the same time, or hey, you let me know. I'm going to post this next Friday. If you can be available a little bit, maybe to facilitate some comments on my Facebook or on my Instagram or whatever, that'd be awesome. Hang out for a couple minutes. I'm going to post at 5:00 next Friday. If you are available to facilitate any comments that might happen, bingo. And I just feel like a lot of podcasters, they quit too soon. And it breaks my heart, man, because I'm like, I get it. If you don't have time, if you have, if life kind of changes, and you don't have time anymore, or I know sometimes people, they'll have a baby, or, something in life happens. Hey, something happens in life that it's like, I don't have time anymore. But if nothing in life is so life altering that you can continue your podcast season in and season out, then keep going. Even if it's like, you know what, I'm going to run this like a Netflix show. I'm going to run it for Q3. Every Q3 of every year, I'm going to come out with another 25 episodes or another 20 episodes. Right. But I just feel like a lot of podcasters, they quit too soon. And I'm like, bro,
dude, for me, there's no plan B.
Yeah, man. And you got to burn the ships.
I'm at 40 years old. I've got to do something.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Making content for people to enjoy like this. There's no plan B. I can't change anything. I can't go back. I have to succeed. I spent money on equipment. I have to make it work. I've got to pay it back off. I've got to get everything back from what I've spent. And there's no way to stop. And it's funny that you're talking about what you're saying about not quitting, because I won't say the person's name because they're kind of a little bit more famous, and a lot of people might know who they are, and I don't want to shout them out like that. Yeah. But they said they'd come on my podcast. Yeah. And they were supposed to be interviewed or set up an interview already. And then he asked me, he's like, how many streams you get? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't get any yet because like I have just put out my first one yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, and we're kind of friends. We met on Facebook. I did this weird thing where I networked with people that I didn't know for a long time, because what if one day our relationship could be something that's useful for both of us and help us,
Yep.
for the same reason you're talking about, but like I just, famous, more mid-level famous, like musicians and people. I had some friends that were in a band.
Yeah.
And then I met this one band that was friends with those friends. And then like we became friends on Facebook, and then it kind of just grew from there.
Yep.
And I became friends with some other people who are actually in some pretty big bands. And he has a podcast, and he had this guy on his podcast. And so then I added him on Facebook because we were Facebook friends. And then I met the guy in person one time. And so he was like, yeah, I'll come on your podcast. Sure. So then he's like, okay, I don't go on anybody's podcast until they've done 30.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, he's not going to come on.
Yeah.
And then he's like, here, read this article. He said, just in case you don't read it. And he's explained the article to me like I wouldn't read it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that from him. I read the article, and basically what it says is only 1% of people go beyond 21 episodes.
Yeah.
1%. So if you go past 21 and you stop, why? Right.
Yeah.
And I could have gotten frustrated and been like, man, he's just gatekeeping me. He doesn't want to, because he thinks I'm just some little young nobody but he's not doing that. What I realized was he was trying to teach me mental toughness.
I love it.
Because he's like, you know what, if this guy really wants me to be on his podcast, he'll make it to 21.
Yeah.
And he said, and if you make it to 21, I'll be on your show.
I love it. He can be 22, right? So he wants to be 21.
Who you are, and I'll see you at 21.
No, absolutely. It'd be cool for him. It'd be cool for him to be number 21. It'd be powerful.
Yeah, dude. If I can afford to do it, I'm like gonna set up to go do it in person with him.
Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
I'll be honest. I didn't know exactly where you were going in the beginning. I was like, man, that guy's not. In the beginning when you were sharing, I was like, I don't know if I like that guy. But the thing is, it's like, no. After you completely shared the whole situation, that makes complete sense, and I actually love that he did that, and I respect that quite a bit.
When I tell you what
so
he
whoever
does,
you are, I think that's awesome. I like you. That's great.
I'll tell you afterwards what he does and who he is.
Yeah.
You'll understand why he did me like this.
No, absolutely. And I respect it, man. I think that's great because I sigh. I have a really big sigh for this because I know a lot of people that have very great podcasts, and they stopped. And, they stopped without us knowing if they're going to come back or not. And
yeah, I got some of my favorites just like that, man.
And I'm like, man,
where are you, Appalachian intelligence? Sorry.
No, and I'm just like, man, you guys, some of these people had the most amazing guests on their show. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. When the numbers are not numbering, when the likes aren't liking and the shares aren't sharing, I get it. But it's like, man, I go back to Gary V. Okay. I go back to Gary V.
But what you're saying is eventually if everybody's stopping, right, there's the top 10 because only 10 of them keep going.
Exactly. So yes, the Theo Vons and the Joe Rogan. I mean, yeah, of course, man.
They have great production, but they're doing what you said. They're spending their money to make it better every single time that they get a chance. Theo Von started out with a SM57 mic.
Yeah, man.
Sitting on a folding chair and he had nothing going on. And so Joe Rogan, they weren't special when they started.
No, and then even Theo Von, man, he even stepped it up. Now he has animations, and I'm like,
he's kicking butt right now. His stuff is he's asking better questions.
Yeah.
He's like Geraldo, bro.
Yeah, no, to me, he's a great example of just someone that just continues.
I know that nobody knows who Geraldo is, but us old guys. But
I know, man. For all the youngins out there, Geraldo was a talk show host, but. It's like Theo Von to me it's great because he's a guy that every couple of seasons he steps it up again. When I started seeing his animations, I was like, okay, this is just great because he's actually recycling old material and
Mm-hmm.
now using animations to bring it to life. And I
Yeah.
remember watching one, I think it was like him and his mom going to the beach or something. And I was just like, yo, this is just so cool. This is just so cool. Good for him. So
And all
I,
the fact checking he's doing lately, like I'm like totally into that. I was like, I wish I could hire some people so we can do this.
yeah. And I want to encourage you, and I want to encourage everybody. First of all, definitely the podcasters that if you're starting, yes, it's going to be rough in the beginning. It is. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be rough because everything's rough. When I started in the very, very, very beginning of my art career, I was selling my paintings for like $25, $20. I couldn't pay people to take my art off of the table at like a Comic-Con, And I'm grateful and I'm thankful now that yes, people are buying my art for way more than $25. But like in the very beginning, it was hard. It was hard watching people kind of walk by my booth and say, oh, that's cute, or okay, cool, nice work, and keep walking. And it takes time. And I understand that everybody's trajectory is different, but there is a common byproduct to hard work and intentionality. And especially when you are in a realm of meeting new people over and over and over again, right? Because at some point in time, again, the byproduct of consistently meeting new people, doing podcasts, if you're an artist, doing more shows, getting in front of more strangers, which that's a big one. So many people they're afraid to get in front of strangers. To me, that's like a top 5. Yes, your family's cool. Your family can share your stuff all day long. Awesome. That is awesome. But many times, familiarity, there's something about familiarity that can stifle growth. And what I mean by that is, for my people that have lived in the same city all their life, for my people that, only, hang out with their people and they have a business, they have a podcast, they have something that they're trying to show the world. You can't show the world something if you're just showing your immediate circle. You can't show the world something that you want to show the world if you're just going to the local flea market or the local, craft fair. Yes, that's a part of it. That's one piece of the puzzle. That's one slice of the pie. But man, like I'm telling you, it's on my top 5. Any way that you can get your product in front of strangers, do it. Like, so for example, podcasting, I dare you to set up a podcast at a Comic-Con. I dare you to go to, what city are you in?
I live near Johnson City, Tennessee.
Okay. So I mean, how close are you to Knoxville?
I think it's about 3 hours or so.
Okay.
Something like that.
I'm just thinking of I'm just thinking of different cities or, the big cities or whatever.
I have considered trying to like get some local person that a lot of people know to like go to one of the like there's a place called Capone's in Johnson City,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe do like a live podcast on stage or something. But
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's really the place. Probably more of a restaurant vibe, though. I don't know.
Yeah,
I got to think of it.
So what I'm saying is, though, I want to encourage you and everybody listening to look outside the box. Get yourself, however you can think about in your mind, to get your product in front of strangers, not just posting it on YouTube, not just putting it on Facebook, not just putting it on Instagram. Those are several pieces to the puzzle. But the next step is consistently, whether it's once a month, once a week, a couple times a quarter, finding situations, even if you have to travel, if you have to kind of figure out a mobile situation, or maybe you don't necessarily bring, your equipment, but you have a booth set up where you're just doing something off the cuff, like off your phone. Maybe it's you and your family, or you and your friend. Your friend has a phone. You're doing live on the spot interviews at a Comic-Con or at a flea market or whatever. You're still the host of your show. It's just a different version of your show that you're putting out there. And so I'm sharing all these little nuggets because I feel like so many times entertainers, they put themselves in this box. Like, okay, I'm just going to do local venues. I'm going to stay in this little box. I'm going to play my guitar at the same restaurant every single Friday. And that's it. I have my podcast. Yeah. Like, I have my podcast. I'm not going to reach out to people outside of my extended circle. I'm not going to try to set up a booth at a big show that I know is in my town or 1 hour away. Pay a few $100, get a booth, buy a banner, put a QR code on it that's going to take them to my YouTube. And I'm literally going to stand there and I'm going to shake everybody's hand. Every single person that walks by me, I'm going to take the time to get to know them, and I'm going to hand them a card. I'm going to tell them to hit my QR code and check out some of my podcast episodes. Same thing with artists, like, I just feel like in entertainment, so many people.
So you can do that at a Comic-Con? I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can do that.
That's really cool. They actually have one in Kingsport coming up, which is probably it's actually not a Comic-Con, but I could still probably get in on something like this. It's actually a cryptid con, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, you would just tailor your show to whatever they're doing. So, like, whatever, if it's a Comic-Con, then you know what? Today's episode, we're going to be interviewing cosplayers. I'm going to be interviewing comic book writers. There's so many people at like Comic-Cons that they're starting their comic book. They're a writer, they're an artist, they're trying to get themselves exposure. You can literally every couple of hours shoot another show. Yeah. Like, it'd be cool. So I'm just helping you and everybody else.
That's a killer idea, actually. Awesome. Well, I mean, I won't keep you. We're going over an hour here, and I don't want to get too tired on me. we're a couple of old guys now. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's been a great time.
No, but if you want to, say one last thing to everybody, kind of tell them where they can find you, and I'll post your links on the show notes and everything for everyone.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. So on TikTok, you can find me at Another Day. So at Another Day with EJ. So that's where you can find me on TikTok, on Instagram, The Art of EJ Nieves, and Nieves like Nieves, like on my hat. So you can find me there. And so, yeah, no, that's where you can find me. TikTok, I've been on TikTok a lot more lately. And Instagram, I kind of chilled out on Instagram a little bit just because the algorithm's kind of weird and I don't really care for it on Insta. But Insta's still there. But TikTok is where I like to hang out the most.
Awesome. It's been so awesome to talk to you today, man. Thanks for being on here.
Oh, absolutely, brother. Have a good night, man.
You too.
It's my world, and I want to make it good, to leave a legacy of hope, to guide others who will. It's my world.